It's the RGT 136100 V3. It's a Suzuki Jimny. It comes in a few colors. I got this one and it is pretty. I really like it. Let me show you this car. It's a Jimny. It's a 1/10 scale in wheelbase, but in actual body that they've got on it, this is well and truly a 1/8 scale vehicle. Quick stuff first. It comes with a nickel metal hydride battery and charger. It'll be for your country. So this does the voltages of the world, 100 to 250 volts. So you're safe wherever you go. I think it's half an amp. And for a 1.5 amp charger, that means 3 hours of charging. Same sticker sheet as what's in the box for the 136100 V2. Really cool. It's got a side loading 4AA battery slot. And you've got your push button adjustments and even dip switches here. Believe it or not, one of the main reasons I bought this was not because it's a Jimny body and that the lights are trick. I got it because I wanted to see the Hobby Wing Fly Sky amalgamation. It's the WP711, I think it is called. It's an all-in-one ESC and receiver and light controller. The hobby's been crying out for this. It's got 4 channels. There's a button and a 3-position switch, even has a battery indicator on it for the car. This is a really interesting unit because there's not a lot of other stuff that's cheap in the hobby like it. You start spending lots of money, you get a nice radio like the Sanwa, some of the Futaba stuff, you get sensor modules, which FlySky also makes, that you can plug into your model and it'll send telemetry back. But to get something cheap that gives you the control and basic telemetry such as an LED, it's literally an LED for battery, it's really good. Oh, I see. I've just looked at what the dip switches are for. Let me show you something cool. Right, so number 1 gives you forward and reverse, or forward, reverse and brake. Dip switch 2 lets you select between LiPo and nickel metal hydride. Let me just state again how amazing this is to have it on the radio, because usually that's a jumper that you stick on a couple of pins on the 1060 or on the 1080. Use a programming card. To have this on the radio just tells you how tight the integration is. If you buy this, you're not going to want to be replacing the electronics. 3 and 4 are to do with drag brake. Out of the box, it gives you 50%. We might move number 3 up. So now it's at 100%. It's comfortable enough in the hand. Now I have moderately large hands. It's still a bit of a reach for the steering. One last thing, we'll just take a quick look at the manual. You've got exploded parts diagrams on the back. You've got replacement and upgrade parts on one panel on the other side. You've got a lighting diagram here, and it is the HW711. And you've got a light control. It tells you how to set that up. This is such an interesting model, just from the electronics point. Before we even get to the body, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to stick an article up on my website, RC-TNT.com. I'm going to stick an article up that goes into detail about this. That way we can keep this video moving, and you will have an idea of what's involved with this electronic setup. All right, I will say at this point, just looking at it, it's quite pretty. Rubber is stretchy. It is bead locked. The wheels feel plastic. Yeah, wheels are plastic. A couple of changes that jump out at me straight away, apart from the more attractive wheels. These things were the plastic things. They're still plastic, but they're a lot better. It's the same body size. You still have 4-link front and rear because you've got the servo on the axle, so that's completely normal. This thing obviously has the side steps, this doesn't, that's fine. Now you might remember when I did the 136100 V2 review, we did a quick and dirty hack to get the battery, which is the same size battery, up front to move the weight forward, because the battery tray, which you can still see, is in the rear. This one has been moved and it's now at the more traditional SCX10 style traditional front position, so that's fantastic for balance. Shiny diff pumpkin covers versus the boring kind of plastic front, but otherwise these are really similar. I could literally and exactly buy 2 of the version 2 for the price of one version 3. It's a copy of the Jimny, but it's not licensed. So where's the money gone? It is clear that the body has a lot more attention to detail. You've got all of this costs money. It's not just to make it, it's not just the materials, but you've got to have the design for it, the tooling for the injection plastic, and then you've got to make it. You've got to install it. Like having mirrors, and they're on swivels as well. They're really tight, but they're on swivels. They don't have reflective material, but hey, it's got mirrors. This doesn't have any of that. Side steps, no side steps. Very pretty wheels, and 5 of them. Cheaper plastic wheels and not beadlock, but glue. Tires aren't too bad. Tires are super sticky. I would make a prediction here though. I think that the version 2, even though the weight is similar, I think this thing's gonna actually still have been better on the rock than the version 3. Let's get one thing out of the way first. Miles per mile is a legitimate measure, which is why there's a market for scale vehicles. We just did the BRX01, I've got a BRX02 in a box, we're gonna do a build on that soon. Those things are kind of expensive, and when you can buy, for the price of either of these, a full-size 110 scale capable off-road machine, why would you spend 3 or 4 times that amount? Well, clearly there's more to it than just driving. Because if it was just about driving, this is your more expensive version and this is your cheaper version, and they're both quite capable for their size. Clearly it's more than that. So let's dig in. We can see that the materials and sizes on the chassis are really similar. The shocks feel like they've got oil in them, these definitely don't. But aside from that, and the body and the wheels kind of thing, it's the same truck underneath. So we've got the body, which is beautiful. We've got the electronics, and we've got the lights. There's your money difference. Is it worth it before we even dig into this thing? Well, that's up to you. 136-100 V2 is still a fabulous deal, and if you're gonna just get started in crawling, this actually may be one of the best choices, or its big brother, the Pioneer, whatever the FTX model of that is. They're both amazing trucks. We've got a 6 kilo waterproof servo. We have the same 25 turn 390 motor. To get the back off, you actually need to unscrew it. It's got a bolt on each side. There are also LED housings to hold more lights than just the tail lights. There's indicators in reverse, and the front has a more complex setup. It's really similar to the version 2 in that you've got metal universals with plastic inners. Pinions are nice and snug. There's no need to shim them, which is good. You've got lovely little plastic retention straps for the wires inside, which is good. You've got nice solid shock mounts. It's very plush. The links are all nickel plated steel. Good articulation without being ridiculous, front and rear. If this thing can finish just 2 problems, which will be problem 1 and 5 at a minimum, it'll be good enough to be a decent crawler. Those cheap $15, $20 servos that say 15 kilos, crawler, waterproof, they come in a bunch of brands. Power HD makes them. JX Servo has the LV, the 5323 LV. I'll link that below. That would be a fabulous choice for this car. Much stronger than this stock thing. 6 kilo is insufficient for these grippy tires when you're doing more serious crawling, which is what this is. Not just trail driving here. Remember also that the version 2 of this thing did not break in our testing, and it copped an absolute beating on these rocks. Weight balance is pretty good, and that's before the battery goes in. You never really get a center point for your steering, and because it's not completely centered where the servo's mounted, you're always going to get one side that can steer better than the other. I usually go as far as I can, then back it off just a tad. Now we've got full steering. I like how this body goes on and off. The hinge system, very welcome. I wish it was in more cars. Very nice. Just 2 pins to pull the whole body off. Wonderful. Now, from our little testing and playing around here, that lowest speed is a little too high. Now, you don't have what's called expo on this, which is a shame. But hey, it's an RTR. For an RTR radio, it's not terrible. What's the gearing like? That's its slowest speed. We also need to adjust the steering trim. It needs to come right a bit. It skids. Here's maximum acceleration. Like, I'm hooking it. throw me a like if you got something out of this. Thanks for joining me as we explored the exciting electronics and visual side of this thing. It really is quite an interesting machine. But there might be more to the story than that. I think maybe we need to talk.